I know. It's like she looking confused. I'm not bothering her. She is not worrying me. That. Okay, because I'm just trying to figure out where you
That looks good.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Can you
I'll take it
check
back.
that out?
Yep.
Tell me what that is, please.
Sure.
Because I found it on my desk.
Oh, okay.
So whoever sent it didn't serve it properly, so I didn't receive that.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
okay.
And her husband. He's trying to get my benefits together. Yes. Man. Trying to get that 1 0 0. That's what I'm trying to get. Well, I'm stuff I gotta do. I like that pink. Yes. I'm coming down there to get that out there.
Okay, you can come on.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good evening.
Yeah. See, I will say I'm going to your closet, not when in my house, clothes about my closet. You know what I mean? Right now, ugly.
Yeah, I sent it, I had it, and I actually recorded it, bring it out.
It's from. I just realized I didn't quite. Probably. Yeah, I mean, it's not creating one, it's just. Okay. I just wanted, this one I looked at you. I don't know if yours was brand new, but it was newer than the LSD.
That'll never work.
There.
Yeah,
This is the thing we're gonna walk on about the street naming. Bishop, so I didn't get it. Sent to me, so I would look at it.
That's where you're coming? Good. I'm just going, yeah, I'm bringing you something. Madam Clerk,
Are these
yeah, you don't need a copy of this.
different?
one is workshop and one is regular.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't need a copy of this for you, Madam Clerk.
I think he just brought it.
Perfect, perfect.
I'm well, how are you?
This is for workshop.
Just discussion stuff, you know.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Section F, was its own document or?
Two separate, one is graffiti and the other is, okay. One page, so.
Okay. Let's be frank, this agenda is short, we might get it with these numbers. Can anybody speak up, speak on behalf of Ms. Martin, to be able to make the workshop?
I know. She wants this shirt, just like she wants this shirt. Oh, yeah. Don't fit you. Ain't yours. Sold out. Whatever it takes to get that shirt off of you and on me, that's what I'm gonna do.
What are we talking about?
So I have a question. Are you going to look at the workshop or something? Okay. Okay. All right. I'll let them know. All right. She's coming, but she's gonna be late.
All right, then. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the people who are here tonight for the Highland Park City Council in-person and virtual workshop. If you would be kind enough to call the roll for me, Madam Clerk.
Council Pro Tim Robinson. Councilwoman Manica,
Here.
Councilwoman Martin, Councilman Ashafi,
Present.
Council President Thomas.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the purpose of tonight's workshop is to continue the work that council has set aside, has decided to move forward with as it relates to ordinances. The agenda tonight refers to the graffiti ordinance, the residential rental ordinance, and council will, in open chambers, begin to work on a list of ordinances that they feel are a priority for us to address during the remainder of our term. What I would like to do on the first, so we have 3 items here, and we have an hour to work on them. However, if council decided, one of these things we can touch another time, we can move on to the next one, I will be open to that as well. And the reason why I'm saying that is because unless members of council have actively worked on anything related to the graffiti ordinance, I would like to suggest that we take this document and in fact read it so that the next time we deal with it, we can do so more confidently as it relates to graffiti. I would like to actually focus more on the residential rental ordinance tonight, and I feel that it will require more of our time. And I also feel that preparing a list of ordinances for review is a higher priority because that's our marching orders for the rest of the year. To that end, what I have done is to get into the Zoom meeting. Where is it? Just a second, I need to find this. Here we go. Screen. So on the screen right now, you're going to see the Highland Park municipal codes. For those people who are not familiar with the ordinance for the city, if you go to our website, this is our website here. If you do a query search under ordinances, it will take you to a list of ordinances, animal ordinances, business license, ethics, sale of real estate property, solar energy ordinance, zoning ordinance that was adopted in 2011. But at the bottom here, it has the Highland Park Code of Ordinances. It's a municipal code. I have this hard copy book at my house. I got it as a planning commissioner. It is this big. It is as big as a copier. It's that big. But we do have access to these ordinances that are online. This is for the public as much as it is for my peers in the room. The process that I would like to suggest we undertake involves painstakingly reading the ordinance. Thoroughly painstakingly reading the ordinance, making sure that our interpretation is level set between the 5 of us. And then highlight sections of the ordinance that will require review. That seems like the most logical process. For example, this is the charter. The charter has various sections. If we wanted to talk about terms of office, we'd have to go through and highlight section 4.4, read section 4.4 in an open meeting, decide what parts of section 4.4, A, B, C, D, etc., will require a change, and then make recommendations among the 5 of us and have it sent over to the legal department for muster, if that's the project that we're going to undertake. So with this, just getting started, looking at these 2 ordinances and then making a list, we have our hands cut out for, our hands full and our work cut out for us. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to take a polling question among the 4 members here. Would you like to spend time on the graffiti ordinance tonight, or would you like to take the document that was just provided to us by the CED director, read it, and then come to this ordinance discussion on graffiti at a later date and move on to something of a higher priority, Madam Pro Tem?
I sent the email with a couple of suggestions for the graffiti ordinance that I would like to discuss.
Thank you so much. And to your point, that was the next thing I was going to say. For those people who would like to make changes to the ordinances, specific changes, it is incumbent upon you If I wanted to make, if I read through the ordinance and I found that there was something in the ordinance that needed to be changed, it would be incumbent upon me to suggest that change and then to negotiate it among the five of us on city council and then come to some sort of consensus. It would not be the responsibility of another party or other members of council to address the concerns that you specifically have moving forward. That puts the onus on the individual who brings these things to the attention of council. And I can be honest with you, you're going to notice things that I don't. You're going to uncover things that I won't. And I actually rely on the fact that in many cases, we don't agree on a lot of things. That means everything is going to be scrutinized thoroughly. So to that point, Ms. Robinson, wait, let's first confirm. Would you guys like to move, like put the graffiti ordinance to the side and work? Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me, Madam Pro Tem. Let me get into my email. Would you mind pulling up on your email the specific July 2nd?
So if I could respond to that.
Go ahead,
Well,
ma'am.
I think that Ms. Robinson's already saying, I'm assuming, that she would like to discuss graffiti right
Okay.
now.
Okay,
Because
that's
she
fine.
already made an
Yeah.
email
Yep.
for it.
That's fine. What I wanted to make sure that we did is so people in the audience know, there's been a lot of conversation back and forth between members of council about tackling issues with ordinances. And my request to them was, hey, put a list together so that we can be succinct in the way that we approach this. We don't really have a lot of time. And so my request was to have members respond to that request with specifics about a particular ordinance and or help to prepare the list. Madam Pro Tem sent in this document, Madam Pro Tem sent a reference to graffiti ordinances as well as the rental compliance. I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen since she was the first person to bridge the subject. So what we have here from Madam Pro Tem is, as it relates to the graffiti ordinance, please add a strict line for vacant businesses, building structures, instruct that all owners that they must apply for a blue light program, and the blue light will definitely deter and catch artists. Okay. How you want to handle this, Ms. Pro Tem? You want to just go discuss this? You want to just deliberate on it? How you want to do this?
Well, I just really wanted to read into the record, and if anybody here, like maybe,
Okay. Okay.
our tech person that's responsible for the blue light and installation, what would the ramifications be to put that on the business owners and the businesses that the city of Highland Park and buildings that the city owns?
I don't know if we need Mr. Lackey for this one, but
So,
Mr. Lackey, I hear you, Ms. Manica. You want to come in and join the conversation, please?
she's absolutely right, though. I mean, we would have to know if there would be. I want to say there's a couple of cities that actually require it, the blue light, green light, some kind of light, I don't know. I don't know if it's an actual requirement. I believe it is
Yeah.
in some cases. And so how could we actually, I think that was brought up before when we did get the blue light. So we do have blue lights in certain areas. And so that was brought up back then that it would be a cost. And so that
Right.
was a problem for business owners. So how could we help them alleviate the cost? So I would also ask that our CED director come forth, because you did work on this graffiti.
Yeah. There is one thing that I see right away, the word must. And so when we're talking anything legal, so requesting or encouraging is one thing, but you cannot instruct a private property owner, even if there's a vacant building structure, vacant house, that they must apply for a blue light to put that on their property. That form of
Then they must be responsible for the graffiti.
that
That's
makes sense.
absolutely correct.
That makes sense. But to require them to put a surveillance device on their property, that might, we're pushing buttons constitutionally on that.
So I think what we talked about before was, again, that they're responsible for the graffiti. If they do not get the graffiti off and we get the graffiti off, then we're gonna charge them what we were charged to get the graffiti off. But I don't know that if it's actually in an ordinance that way. So it would have to be in the ordinance on graffiti.
I think that's in there right now, right? It says if they get fined and the city has to come out to remove it for blight. Come on up to the podium, Mr. Clyburn. That they are responsible for what the cost is of having that removed. I think that's in there. We read through that last time.
So, good evening.
Good evening.
We don't have an actual graffiti ordinance. This is in the property maintenance. So we do have something that addresses graffiti and property maintenance. This was like a paragraph. So what we were brought to the council was something more, had more teeth that specifically addresses graffiti, because like we talked about the last time, and Councilwoman Manica made a good point of it, is that most of the buildings that's being tagged are those that's not operating. So this kind of puts the pressure. So we really want a graffiti ordinance so that we could put more pressure on those speculators or those people just sitting on property to do something with it. And if they don't, then they'll be constantly fined because of the graffiti. So what we did was, and Gerald, first Attorney Bosnick sent me something, because something we talked about months ago. And then I've shared it with the new building department and Gerald. So what you have today is another excerpt from what Wayne County does.
Mhm.
So to answer the question, I'm not sure if we did add that blue line, I'm not sure legally if we could, but that would pretty much go on the vacant property registration ordinance, in my opinion.
Right.
But if there's any like specific questions, we're here to address them. But that's, the whole point of it. Oh, and another thing, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but if council would like to, let's say, take that 5,000 per district, to help us kind of alleviate some of the city buildings. And I'm being honest, because we don't have a line item in our budget that talks about boarding up properties and getting rid of graffiti. So we would have to figure out the cost in the city, because to your point, Councilmember Ashafi, you made the point last time that for us to have properties that's tagged and not be able to do something with it, the biggest thing is the cost. We don't have the cost to do it. But like I say, council got a little bit of money in their budget. I mean, it may not be much,
That's all right. I ain't mad at
but
you.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you.
Right. Right.
I can accept something like that.
And that, kind of like we was in the staff meeting, and I kind of brought that up, like, well, because there are monies, but the biggest thing to do is let's sell this property. So, that's the biggest thing. We shouldn't be sitting on all that property anyway. But to the graffiti ordinance, let's go back.
That's still graffiti ordinance, so to speak. So I'm enlightened to that as well. But I do want us to make sure that we put the teeth in the graffiti ordinance, that the owner, I don't care where you are, you need to board this up and board it up properly. It may be even boarding up with stuff I'm sure you can do graffiti on anything probably, but some kind of way to make it not be presentable. You know what I mean? What I'm saying, to make it be presentable that they don't want to. Either way, we're hoping that you sell it, because if I charge you long enough, and how many times, you're going to decide to either sell your property or fix your property, one of the two. So the blue light, I guess we just have to check again. Mr. Lackey does kind of cover those areas, or he might know some real rules with the blue light.
I see you now,
He's a person
But
that talked about it. So when
Right.
Ms. Robinson said to check with him, and also I guess check with legal as well. I just remember we covered that before for something else, and I think that's not something we can say they have to do. So if we can't say they have to do it, then by all means, if we have to come and remove it, then we're gonna charge you.
which still is like a cost issue,
Yeah.
you know.
And we're gonna
Okay.
charge you that cost.
Right.
Now, you can maybe add another 1% to it, 2% to it, because you made us have to do it.
Mhm.
Well, we gotta figure out how to stop this, just how to stop this.
I want
agree.
to make sure that we, so I get it. And I think that, I'm gonna go back to the screen here. I think that the second line item here, all city-owned vacant building structures should have blue light. I think that's actually kind of brilliant, because let's not forget that graffiti is a crime, and it's not a victimless crime. There's a person who owns a piece of property. Her request is that all city-owned vacant building structures that are strategically placed blue lights on those, and you were just speaking to that. And what I wanted to drive home is that vandalism is a crime. I want to make sure that that's No, it's not as if the property owners are saying, hey, come spray paint my house. No more than somebody would say, hey, come dump some trash behind my house either. I mean, because you can get a fine for trash being dumped behind your house and people do it all the time. So I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that graffiti, this is vandalism. As we approach fining people, particularly people that don't live here, I mentioned it last week, we could amass fines over time that the property owner doesn't find out about until they're in arrears and jeopardy of losing their property, like they do in Detroit. Am I right? Getting a hold of these people, somebody live in Chattanooga that own a building on Oakland. Are you able to get in? So they're getting, someone tags up a building on Oakland. Let's assume we have an ordinance. Someone tags up a building on Oakland, July 1st. And they get a ticket on July 18th. It's not removed. Here we are in August. The person gets a second.
Let the record show Ms. Wong walked in at 6:17.
So they get a second ticket in August. The ticket is now they're at $1,000. We still haven't actually contacted the owner of the property and they're receiving the fines. How do we manage that? Because locally, a local person is going to find out about their fine immediately. Basically, you're not gonna be able to go anywhere without fine. But we have a lot of corporate property owners in Highland Park now, unfortunately.
I would like to respond, but I'm gonna wait on Ms.
Go ahead.
Robinson.
Ms. Robinson, I'm sorry, you've been
I'm
patient. Go
looking
ahead.
at, section 158-3.
Of,
Just new.
okay.
The new
What you passed out.
Thank you.
You gotta, can you read that from me? Can you, one of y'all read that from me?
Well, F,
Give me the section once again.
Section F.
It's the back page, first.
It's on the back. F. 158-3, F.
Section F, a person who violates any prohibition of this chapter is liable for a civil infraction of $100 for a first offense and $200 for a second offense within 1 year. In lieu of paying a fine for a civil offense, an offender may be assigned to a work crew to remove graffiti to satisfy the fine at a rate of $10 per hour. The prosecuting attorney shall further represent the owner of the property before the juvenile division of the probate court in obtaining a civil judgment against the offending juvenile for the full cost of removing the defacement and restoring the property.
I don't think those fines are stupid.
This was taken straight from Wayne County
Right.
and, alter as you see fit so far as fine amounts.
Yeah,
I
those
agree.
fines be steep.
So juvenile, my other thing is, I was gonna say the same thing, the fine is not steep enough, but it also looked like we're only talking about kids.
Right.
It seemed like this paragraph is about the person that actually does the tagging,
Right.
not the business owner. But I mean, I know it's still referencing a juvenile and it shouldn't, we should take juvenile out.
Yeah.
But like I said, we just pulled this is something
I
just
got
to
you.
work from.
Okay.
So this nothing's set in stone, anything like that.
Right.
It's something that we just give you examples like the last time, but this one comes from a county document.
So-
And G addresses
Go
owners.
ahead. No, go
G
ahead.
addresses owners.
It addresses the owner.
Owners.
Well, I was still talking about juvenile, because
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that tag and they not
They
No, they
17.
in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah, so I think juvenile, that would be something we
I
would take
believe
out
right
and
now
then,
it's higher, what we charge is higher than this. I would have to look.
And so far as vacant property registrations, because that is under the IPMC, that does address graffiti. And even if they had received a certificate of compliance, if we see that, or if enforcement or someone calls about it and says, hey, this graffiti on this building is unsightly, whatever, we can contact, whoever responsible local agent on the application and make them aware. We can suspend that certificate of compliance. And one of the things that I think would be good as a change to the vacant property ordinance is putting a little bit more teeth in that, so far as, we can suspend it, but if they don't comply, then what? What's the next step? Can we revoke it? That might be nice to have for our bad actors so for both ordinance, rental and vacant. There's a problem, they have a CFC, but they don't make any change. If we could have the power to revoke that completely and make them start the process all over again because they aren't complying with the ordinance.
I'm in agreement with that.
How are we on enforcement? As far as manpower?
We still only have one in the
We have
building.
one.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, we got 1 point.
1.5,
well,
250?
if I happen to be out to lunch and I see something, I might spend a little extra 10 minutes taking some
You
pictures
got
and send
one
them
on
to
the
myself.
books.
One on the books.
But
Right.
but Mr. Malone and I work very well together. If I ask him to send a citation because it's been 30 days and no response, he's more than happy to do it.
Well, the truth be told, that most of this tagging is happening late at night.
Mhm.
It's happening late at night. And it's happening in places and areas in which I can't see how they got
get up
all of
there.
that done.
Yeah.
And nobody saw them. It wasn't like they sprayed their name like Hershey and then rolled out. No, they put a whole mural up and nobody drove by and saw that.
I think somebody's standing on somebody else's shoulder.
Yeah.
Cause
Doing
I
something like
then
that.
I
Yeah.
walk around
Yeah.
and I see how tall it is.
So that's why I said last time we were talking about this, it needs to be a private conversation that we need to have in private to figure out how we can increase or step up patrols in certain key areas where they're tagging. Okay, Woodward, there should be
Yes,
no
ma'am.
way that anybody can get away with tagging on Woodward and not get caught. There's no way that anybody should be able
Okay.
to get on Hamilton and climb to the top of a building and tag there and don't get caught. Now, on these little side streets, maybe you might get away.
Mhm.
But there's no reason that a person should be able to put up an entire mural and get away with that and nobody saw nothing.
So, well, to that point, tonight for fun, I want us to all go on to YouTube and look at tag experts. I want you to go look at the tagging contest. And in about 8 minutes, you'll see a beautiful mural of Martin Luther King on the wall behind you. I've
That's how
seen him
fast
swing.
they-
I've seen him swing from ropes.
One person?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got that, Council President, but you know,
Yeah,
again.
They're professionals at this.
Stuff.
No, I'm saying, I just said, so to be able to put up a very well drawn out mural of Dr. King would take 8 minutes. To tag your name would take 24 seconds. If you're an expert at it.
Okay.
Now, the statute of limitations have expired on my youth. I'm just telling you, it's not hard to put your name up in artwork in a few minutes.
If
I'm
I
saying it's not.
If I could also add,
Yeah.
it seems like vacant properties are more likely to be tagged. So I don't know if council would be interested, but you could even look at possibly phasing so far as a commercial property on Woodward, maybe fees to register that vacant property should be more expensive than a commercial property on John R.
I don't know how that's going to look long-term for our business. I don't know about that.
What about more of those cameras that we got, them Flocka cameras, more on Woodward and more on Hamilton? What about them cameras?
Like the blue light?
Yeah, what about more? of them
No,
cameras?
not the blue light.
No,
Flocka.
Flocka cameras that we got.
I'm not sure. I'm not
I think
familiar.
those, I just asked about
what
those
about
for
those?
something else, and I think they only catch license plates
Hmm.
numbers, you know what I mean? So, because I asked about that for something else,
Yeah, I think
Mr.
they
Shafi,
might be
and I was
trained.
told that they
It might
don't
be AI
take
influenced.
actual footage like the blue light. Before, Ms. Martin, did you want to say? I was gonna say.
Yes,
something.
ma'am. I'm sorry,
I
Ms.
did
Martin.
have a question. So the graffiti, there's businesses that are, and you guys might have covered this before I got here. And my apologies for being late, but my thing is, what do you do for those businesses that, they get graffiti, they sit there and they paint and get rid of it, and then 10 days later, you said it only takes 8 minutes.
It's happened to me.
So they turn around and do it again. Are we gonna keep finding them? Because at this point, it's like the business is really.
Yeah.
Is this thing on? Okay.
Yeah, we,
At this point, it's like the business owner is really the victim.
they
Mhm,
are.
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? And
Yeah.
so we're gonna keep charging them
Well-
every 10 days that a person puts, graffiti back on there?
Well, the first step is never
Yeah,
a
because
fine.
this building is not in their neighborhood, it's in ours.
Right.
They not
Absolutely.
seeing it.
Right.
Well, the first step is never a fine. They get a letter with a certain amount of time
The
to
business.
respond. Yeah, the
Yes.
business.
Okay.
Because, we don't know who it is. If I could send a letter to the person, to the actor, absolutely. But the business, once we become aware of it, they get a letter and then there's a certain amount of time for them to respond, like 30 days or something like that. And then if we don't get a response, I'm even more willing, I'm even willing to give them more time if they at least contact us within that 30-day period to say, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I need another week or two to get funds together to repaint or whatever they're going to do to remediate the graffiti.
And so just to
Go
add
ahead.
real fast, most of the businesses or most of the buildings that's being tagged are the ones that's not open, right? And the ones that, let's say there is a business that's open and operating,
Right,
if it keeps getting tagged,
right.
they might want to look into the blue light program.
Yeah, that's.
So if they are operating,
I
then
see.
it would be, to their benefit to get into the blue light program. But if it's a building that's been vacant and, they continue to get tagged, then I would continue to
I
find
mean, well,
out.
there's, because, every developer doesn't come through us, especially if they buy it from a private owner. So what I'm saying, if they bought it from a private owner and they're developing the building and then it gets graffitied, they sent their paint over that and then it turn around and 10 days later get graffiti again. Are we like, well, I mean, where are we with, it happens.
I don't think it would be an oh well, but
Yeah.
we got to quit babying. That's the first thing. We don't have any ordinance. We're not getting any revenue from anything at this point. And so we just keep giving people, we say, oh, well, maybe if I don't want this to happen to them. Oh, but at the same time, they sitting there and they're wherever they are.
Right.
And the building is looking how it's looked. It's been vacant forever. How long?
No, Manica, I'm not talking about a vacant building.
No, I'm talking about businesses. I was just going through the list. I was just going through the list.
I don't really
The
see
list,
too
and
many.
I get what you're saying, but at some point, as a business owner, okay, maybe I'm gonna think about the blue light special because I'm tired of you tagging my building, or I'm gonna hire some little security to patrol my area, and they do that. In all cities, in different places, they do that until the people in the community around them start reporting it as well. Say, hey, I see somebody, or from a distance taking that picture. Again, we can't keep, I can't think of the word of it right now, but we give every reason why we should let you go. We give you every reason why we should let you go, and we let you go, and we look like we look right now.
I got that, but it goes back to what I was saying. I'm not, at this point, I'm not speaking about, we're not having the same conversation because I'm not talking about vacant buildings.
I said, I'm talking about all buildings.
No, I know.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say.
Mhm.
I know
You
what
not
you're
as in
talking
you. Okay.
about. I'm talking about
Okay.
I'm talking about buildings that are being occupied. And they do get graffiti.
Mhm.
And then the owner comes in because you're saying that we shouldn't baby. My question to you is, I don't feel like it's babying a victim. And then if we hire somebody or they hire security, that's another fee that they have to pay.
Yeah, and I'm
to
gonna
have
jump in right
somebody
after you
patrol.
on that.
So
I don't know how long. Okay,
Well,
so then
well,
how long do we let them be a victim? I
Okay,
just
so
wondering, I don't know.
I don't know, we're not turning them.
But I want us to go back. I really want us to go back to what we're gonna do for the graffiti ordinance.
Okay,
Just
so
what
let
is
me
the
pause it.
ordinance going to be?
So let me, yep, so let me pause you guys right there. I appreciate both of your point. I appreciate Ms. Martin's point of view. I appreciate your point of view as well, Ms. Manica. And I want to point, so we're at 30 minutes on this and we still have 3 other line items. The other 2 I think are a very high priority. So I'm going to put a button in it by saying this. What I have written down is that we're going to get more information from the building department and CED on the proposing of blue lights for city-owned property. We're going to get some feedback potentially from Mr. Boschik on how we would have conversations with private property owners. I want to summarize by saying I think those factors are relevant. As somebody who has to pay to get the equivalent of 20 lawns cut every 2 weeks. If it costs you $40 to get your grass cut, I have to pay to get 20 lawns cut to make sure that I don't get graffiti at my property, and I live here. So just think about that every 2 weeks from May to November, basically. And that's a local guy that live here. So I agree with Ms. Martin's point that we have to be mindful of what type of financial burdens do we put on potential people to do business here? Because otherwise, why would they do business here? And it's important to make sure that we have our city look a certain way, but we also have to approach it in a way that's not too punitive. And I'm just trying to have a balanced approach. My gut feeling, I'm more in line with what Ms. Manica is saying. My rational opinion is in line with what Ms. Martin is saying, that we have to consider that the property owner is also a victim here too. So I guess that means this is something that we should come back. I would ask the members of council to really dig into this document. When Mr. Clyburn provides us these documents, I know his expectation is that we go through and pressure test it so that they don't have to continue to do this. I'm sure they would like for us to be able to say, we like these things, let's put them in there and let's create an ordinance.
And reference the last one also.
Yes, sir.
I'll re-email it to you. The
Okay.
one we gave you last time.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and so again, as we focus on ordinances, ladies and gentlemen, this is heavy lifting. This ain't lightweight. Like, we're gonna have to drill this down and make sure that what goes into the legal documents will pass through the muster test. So that means we're gonna have to do this more intensively. The next item on the agenda will be the residential rental ordinance. And I'm gonna keep you at the podium. The rental residential ordinance. I am aware that we are in moratorium right now. I don't know how long that moratorium is gonna last. What did we say, 6 months, or was it indefinite?
No, it's
90
until we
days.
get.
90
the
days.
Ordinance.
Okay, right. So that means that this one is gonna come up with a high priority because this is affecting a lot of people
Okay.
and hitting them in their pocketbook. So I want to move into the discussion of the residential rental ordinance. I'm going to make sure I have what Madam Pro Tem share with us, since you did or email me something specific. I want to make sure that I want to highlight it first because I asked people to send it to me in writing and she did so. So yeah, I see your hand, Mr. Al-Shafi. Let me pull this up for Madam Pro Tem. So the other thing in that email that came to me on July the 2nd was add a strict fine for the landlord to pay in the event that their rental occupied property. Add a strict fine for the landlord to pay in the event that their rental occupied property, in the event that the tenant water is shut off due to landlord negligence. That was her other thing. So I guess what you're asking in this rental ordinance is to correct me, fill me in, Madam Pro Tem. Let me make sure that I'm articulating your point correctly. Because am I reading that right? Add a line item that fines the landlord if your water is turned off and it's not your fault?
Yes.
Okay.
And I also mentioned about the management companies.
Was that in a different?
That's in the rental compliance ordinance. It should have its own section, 1448-18 for the management companies.
Hold on a second.
Pardon me? I said
I need
it
to
should be
find
added. They
You
should
wanna
have their
add
own.
that?
Yes. They should have their-
1448.
And to say, to talk about what?
Talk about how the elevators don't work, they don't have access to their rooms or anything where they can go and have little parties or just meet and play cards. Because they store equipment and supplies and stuff in there. The washing machines and dryers broken, just a whole bunch of stuff. I remember I used to be senior coordinator, so it's a whole lot of stuff that's still going on.
So is this, I'm sorry,
So yeah, fill me in on where this should go.
is this ordinance including apartments or in the senior
It's
buildings?
rental, yes,
Or is it just,
rental.
so
So what?
Just
I was thinking that
tell me again
in
what we're
our
writing here.
ordinance.
1448.
She wanted to add another,
So
Point
1448, 18 or,
yeah.
Yes.
okay, 1448, 18. I'm sorry, go right ahead, ma'am.
So what were you saying, Mr. Blackburn?
I was just answering this question.
See,
You were
got
saying
the-
add
you got
another
the big book.
section
I'm
that
not
talks
gonna
about
lift my big
management
book, Ms.
companies.
Manica. That's too big. I don't have a bag big enough to carry. I use the digital online.
So that's why I have.
For those people who have just joined the Zoom meeting, and also for the people who have walked into the room,
You can go to Nuisance and Abatement because that's where it's going.
the ordinance for the city of Highland Park are on the website under Highland Park Code of Ordinances, Muni Code. And the Muni Code, which is not up to date, mind you, has all of the ordinances. Ms. Manica has a large book of ordinances that she's referencing. And you'd actually have to have it. So you have to pull this up on your phone and look at it, or you actually have to have the book.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, sir.
And they don't match either, so.
I know, yeah, the Muni Code, they're not
Yeah, I would be
updated.
very careful about
They're not
sending people
updated.
to that. you know.
Absolutely. That's why.
The old chart is still on there, so.
Yes, ma'am.
so you're right, they don't match. They don't match. I already came to that conclusion.
They don't even match
But-
the new chart.
It does not match, but either way, I think, and that's what I was trying to find, because I was in the book all day today. There are either some ordinance or in here that's specific to those senior buildings. Am I right or wrong?
I'm not sure,
I was trying to find them. I know I seen it.
It's in Nuisance
because some
and
of those have been repealed, so it's like. Yeah, I mean, if you have something specific, we could take a look at it and match it against what may have been passed since then.
And that's really where the challenge lies. I mean, updating the Muni codes is a 24 to 36 month activity. It's a 2 to 3 year activity for our books. Would you estimate
A year and a half.
year and a half, you think?
Yeah,
Okay,
2
I
years,
like
yeah.
your numbers. I like your enthusiasm. So I'm gonna lead with you. But it just, well, for us, possibly. I just think that it's one of those things that you gotta do. I can tip my hat to the previous city council in that they focused heavily on updating the ordinances, and that was significant. They got a lot of edits made in the ordinances, and it took them some months to get it done.
So, if you don't mind, can I?
Go right ahead.
So Madam Pro Tem, when you were talking about adding the section for the senior building specifically, or senior buildings or just, rentals period, because that can be senior buildings or just apartment
Cabin
buildings.
houses, all of
Right. And then nothing in this ordinance kind of covered that. Okay. Okay.
So my question would be, does it have, can it be a totally different ordinance? Or is it a totally different ordinance for that type of rental apartments? And because none of the houses, unless I don't know about a house here, they got, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
so
how would you?
it's kind of like property maintenance, kind of,
So
go
could
into
it
that
be a
as well,
C
so.
property maintenance?
That's what, we'll take,
Okay.
we're gonna take that request back to the building department and take a look at it and see if it needs to be included here or referenced where, in the property maintenance ordinance.
So, but right before you go, Mr. Shafi, if I could get you guys to focus your attention on the screen, I just put in senior in the Muni code. Okay, and it says senior apartments. It gives a reference number. So knowing that it's not up to date, we still see a reference here. We also see planning and zoning code for senior apartments. So there's something there. That's the whole point. As we dig into this, you're gonna have to go on a hunt.
Well, that's what I thought. Maybe it might be a reference, or if not, can we make it a reference?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
just like dog ordinance. They
Yeah.
have dog, but then you have to reference animals as well.
Can I ask a question of the group? We're in our 30th month. How often have you accessed this? If the answer is never, that's cool, but I'm saying we're in our 30th month. Has anybody accessed the Muni codes?
almost every day.
Yeah, quite a bit, Council President, and when I have accessed it, even when I click on the references, it's so out of date. When you click on the reference, there's nothing under the
Nothing
reference.
there.
There's not,
There's nothing under the reference for it. I asked that a lot.
So I just clicked on one.
well, it is correct.
I
Then
just clicked on
sometimes
one.
it's not there.
Mhm.
I just wanted to,
But like, that ordinance is expired.
I
We
figured,
did-
I'm
we did
saying.
another one since then.
Yeah,
Just-
it's there.
The
It's
one, the
something
one
there.
you just clicked,
Yeah,
that expired. We
Okay.
redid it. I think it's 21.
we have our hands full, ladies and gentlemen.
So the main thing that I just kind of want to bring to the attention with this rental ordinance is the fact that the one that's on the books now does not have a family exemption. And that's really what shut it down. So this one does talk about the family exemption. The old one did. So
Can
that's,
you go into that for us, just that part, please?
yeah. We get the extras up here for that.
Because before, remember, everybody's complaining about the family piece, so they added the family piece.
This is a prototype. It's a prototype. Basically, it's a working draft.
Oh, it's a combination of city attorney. Yeah, so as Carlton mentioned, there is a family exemption included in this version of the ordinance. We touched on it last time that we spoke about this, but it does give an exemption to immediate family members from registration.
And so what do they have to do? I just wanted you to kind of,
Yeah, so all they would have to do is send in an application, but they would be exempt from any inspection or any fees, anything like that. When they respond back to the letters that we send out to the 0% PRE properties, they would say, okay, I have person A, B, or C living in this property. This person is my immediate family member, and that would entitle them to exemption from the requirements of the ordinance. Yeah, oh, yes, and there is an affidavit as well. I think Gerald might have sent along a copy that they signed saying, nope, this is my family member. This isn't someone that's,
What
Yeah.
section would I find that in? Is it in
Is it the
this?
stuff in yellow?
it should be in one of the highlighted sections.
Right.
But the affidavits are a common requirement when there are family exemptions to
Right.
the ordinance.
Okay, okay.
So I guess what I'm asking, or I'm gonna read it, and stuff in yellow is what has been added. It's correct. So it says new owner occupied, a dwelling or non-owner occupied unit that is occupied, page 4, by any person or persons not the owner for a period of at least 12 hours or overnight, whichever is the lesser duration of time.
Correct.
That's not the piece I think.
And then on the next page, you see a definition of owner occupied, which is the actual owner of record, surviving spouse, children, parents, or siblings occupying a dwelling or non-owner occupied unit as defined by this article, which basically says if a family member is living there, it becomes owner occupied.
Okay, and then affidavit is to assure that they are the family member.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
but it cannot be, looks like it cannot be a sixth cousin.
Twice removed.
Yes,
Yep, I
no,
see
I
Ms.
can't,
Ashafi
okay.
and then Ms. Madam Pro
Wait a
Tem.
minute here.
We're on page 5 now.
Mhm.
I'm done. I mean, I don't have.
Okay,
anything
Mr.
else.
Ashafi and then Ms. Robinson.
Mr.
Woodrick.
Woodruff. Being real nice and real polite here. I know how I can be sometimes. When I say to you moratorium, what does that mean? What is the definition of that mean?
It would be a suspension of enforcement of the ordinance.
Okay. Would you understand that to be past, current, and future hold until we make a decision about this ordinance?
Probably that would be a
Okay,
reasonable.
so I asked that question because I have a number of people, a number of my constituents are calling me and telling me that this ordinance is still being enforced. They're being told that because they were already in the process, they have to continue the process, even though we put a moratorium on it. Now, moratorium to me means past, present, and future holding until we make a decision about this ordinance, okay? So I'm gonna need that to stop.
Okay.
I'm gonna need that to stop, okay? Everything comes to a halt until we finish here, and it's only for 90 days. It's not gonna be that long. You guys can get back to it, but you can't continue the process after we tell you there's a moratorium on it. It's kind of like spitting in our face.
Well,
They were saying something different.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that
Mhm.
classification of it. That certainly wouldn't be anybody's intention to do, Councilman.
I figured that. I said
Yeah.
that. That's why I'm speaking nicely, and I'm telling you that it's still going on. The ordinance is still being enforced, which is concerning me because we put a moratorium on it. And if we put a moratorium on it for 90 days, we will humbly request that you wait the 90 days, leave everybody alone until we finish it.
Yeah, I believe that discussion was had with the administration as to how exactly to approach that issue, because it's a complicated issue, right? Some landlords have already paid monies for their certificate, right? So are we going to say your certificate isn't going to be valid for as long as possible?
So
But
here's why I
that,
say that.
I don't think,
Okay.
I think we can follow that direction very clearly, Councilperson.
Here's why I say that, okay?
Okay.
Right now, we're making changes. So for those people who are already in the queue and going through that process, something may change. And as something changes, they've already been charged for something that they should have been charged for. What does that open the door to? Lawsuits for them paying for something they shouldn't have had to pay for. If I had to pay for something when it should have been a hold on it, and I had to pay for it anyway, and then I find out I didn't have to pay for it, yeah, I'd be very pissed about that.
I would think a refund would be a much more direct way to
But
deal
we
with
know the
something like
city,
that.
We hate giving back money.
Yeah.
Everybody in Highland Park knows it's almost impossible to get a nickel back from HP. Everybody knows that. Okay, so let's just put a hold, past, present, future until we're done here. It's only a couple of more months. It's not gonna kill anybody.
Yeah, we'll make sure that happens,
I
Councilman.
appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank
Madam
you.
Pro Tem, and then Ms.
Okay,
Martin.
I get-
Yeah, I got you.
Some people, like, you know, it's in the
Yeah.
process and.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
need some clarity.
yeah, let's just make everybody whole.
Are you finished, Councilman?
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
I just need some clarity. I'm living in a property that my mom owns in her name. If my mom passed away, does that ownership automatically transfer to me?
That would be dependent on your mother's will
Right.
and last testament. I couldn't speak to that. But in the circumstance you are describing, Madam Pro Tem, being the child of the owner, that would constitute an owner occupied property, regardless of whether or not the title passed to you on her passing.
So that's a law.
No, I can't speak to real estate law. I'm
No,
just
saying if
saying,
we pass this ordinance,
Exempt them in fees, basically.
correct, yes, because you are the child of the registered owner, it would be considered an owner occupied property.
all right. I'm done.
Additional questions, Ms. Martin?
Yeah, I do. First question, I got a couple of questions. First question, Sir Bosnick, you helped with this?
Oh, I reviewed it, and then I think we were there at the prior workshop. There were some comments made regarding the exemptions that the council wanted, so those were placed in by Mr. Carlton's department, Mr. Woodrick.
Why you smile?
All right, I got some questions for you, Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am.
If we had some
I had a whole bag.
things that we would like to be amended, do we email that to you?
What I would prefer that you do is look at those amended changes, send them to all of us,
Absolutely.
send them to all of us. Let's
Okay.
deliberate among ourselves. I'm 1/5 of the vote. So if you have something like tonight, Ms. Pro Tem Robinson had something that she wanted to offer. She opened a line of discussion with CD director about at least addressing blue lights on city-owned property.
Okay.
She sent that to me and we addressed it today. But if you have some actual line items that you say, I want to take letter A out and replace it with this,
Right.
send that to all of us. When we show up at the meeting, then we can really flesh out how that's going to look, because we're going to need the help of Buildings Department, CED, and we're going to need the help of the Law Department as it relates to a lot of these ordinances. Because as novice, there's a framework that has to be followed. There's certain things that we can and cannot do. McKenna knows better than all of us how some of this plays out. CED director is responsible for helping us, because it's community economic development. He's responsible for helping us interpret it. And then our lawyers help us make sure that we're not violating the law in anything that we change. So put something together and send it to the group. And
Okay.
then let's negotiate what's the best outcome.
I got that. I will definitely send it to the 5 of us and the lawyers. I'll do that. My thing is, at the same time, McKenna doesn't even, anybody in McKenna live in the city?
No, they are a third-party vendor though.
Right, okay. Thank you so much. I'm glad you made that point. Okay, so with that being said, my next question, and then I'm gonna yield back. I've been asking for a town hall meeting. Nobody from McKenna has still delivered that for any question that the citizens may have.
Who specifically were you reaching out to about that?
Isn't there a Mr. Donovan? Is that his last name?
Donovan Smith? Yes.
Yeah, him.
What type of town hall meeting?
The one where citizens can ask questions about, because McKenna is helping transform the city, right?
Yeah.
A Q&A that the citizens can ask.
Actually, it's the A, because we already did the
We did the
question.
same thing, too.
And that was doing a public hearing when they only could just hear what we were saying.
Mhm.
So now we need answers.
Right.
Well, I mean, you could put a request into the mayor's office, but I mean, we've done community engagement events, and the CED department along with McKenna
Two so far.
just did an event where we invited everybody out to
Mhm.
ask questions. And that is.
When was that?
It was May 29th. It was.
There was
a
2
month
of
or
them
so
this
ago.
spring. It was 2. They did
We
2
had
back
3
to back.
events so far.
And you said what so far?
We had 3
Okay,
events,
okay,
and McKenna was part of 2 of them. We had a community open house last month, and we had the whole forum a month and a half ago. And that was for people to come out and ask questions. People came out, we presented, myself and Donovan, and we answered questions that were asked right there.
How did you advertise that?
We advertised it on, the same way, through social media, through the website, and the text blast.
It's a whole lot of people.
It was all over. I mean, people.
What was the turnout?
We had
It was full.
50, 75 people there.
Okay.
And then at the community open house, we had about 25 people there, and the community open house was all interactive. We had boards. People could come, put their ideas up. We had it all mapped out. It was over at Wayne Metro on Cortland, and we had about 25 people come out to that. Same way, we advertised it, website, text message, social media. You know, if you have another suggestion on how we can advertise, we'll take that into account and consideration. But right now, we are doing what we feel is the best as far as communication. The website does have a link where you can hit it to receive text messages and emails, and that's what we're leaning on. So, you know, we really want people to get involved. I know it's a newsletter about to come out where it's going to go door to door. So our whole thing is about community engagement and transparency, so people can come out and give their input as we are planning this thing out, because it's very important. The whole thing with McKenna, part of that whole grant with y'all, the whole thing was about community engagement. So as we get into these community engagement events, if you suggest another way or a better way that I could communicate to get more people out or get people involved, we will take that into consideration and make that happen, because we want people to come out. We want to build the city with people in mind.
Yeah.
But if we're not getting people to come out, and it's just like, we hear all, we didn't know. How can we get you to know?
So
these are the methods that we're using.
Let me jump in.
Suggestions.
Let me jump in. And to your point, I want to just say, I had somebody at the meetings. I couldn't make them. I had somebody at the meetings to be there, and they were well attended, and they had a lot of information. This is the third time, the second time since he's been CED director that he did these events in the spring. Did them last year too, at the same location, May, June. Yep, I remember I was just coming out of my development class, and he held a meeting like this. So I think they've done a good job. They were well attended by people in the city that were from Detroit. There's a lot of Detroiters there, but it wasn't a lot of rank and file regular Highland Parkers. And that's one of the problems that I think that we have, that you're gonna have to get out into your districts and talk to people about. Our people do a lot of complaining online, but they don't show up to stuff. And that's a problem. I know everybody working and everybody got to go to school and everything, but we don't get it. We just don't get a lot of people showing up to our events. They don't come. The people that are on Facebook, they don't come to the events. They don't go to Planning Commission. They don't go to ZBA. They don't go to the Housing Commission. They don't go to TIFA. They just don't. Or watch them online. They're online. So if we can find a way to get the people in our districts to participate, it's pretty frustrating. So before you get your hand up, Ms. Manica sent us a list. Ladies and gentlemen, on the screen, you'll see Ms. Manica sent us a list. So far, she has 7 items on the list. And I think I want to thank you first for doing this. What we have in front of us are a list of ordinances that are priorities. I hate when
good.
Yes.
Yep.
I think so.
I just wanted to add, any recommendations for amendments that any members of council have, we would very much like to see them, and we would love to have discussion about them.
All right,
So,
fantastic. Thank you so much, sir.
If we can
Okay.
get an email from you, we would add you into what we share with each other.
If we could.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that but we only got a few minutes left. So on the
Okay.
screen right now,
Thank
we
you.
have from Ms. Manica, top priority for immediate review. She has the special events ordinance. We need to pull the ordinance actual number. Get
So
a
for
copy
that
in
one-
everybody's hands.
For that one, we actually do not have a
So we're talking about
special.
writing one?
That one will have to be written.
Okay, so for food handler certificates, would that have to be written?
No, we have one. Not for special.
This is what we need to uncover. This is what we need to uncover. So the next for street vendors, that's ordinance A74?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one. Fireworks, also weapons and explosives, section 1620-01B, 692-01, at section 1610.09. BOCAF 3101.0. For number 5, it's the dog or animal ordinance. They just updated the animal ordinance.
Yeah, I thought we did.
We did that in our term.
Yes, we did.
So,
So that was,
In 23, we did that.
yeah, we did. And then, so we have lodging houses. We're gonna look at section, chapter or section, chapter
That's
840.
actually chapter.
Okay,
But
so,
with that one,
I didn't like what we
it
done.
would be probably changed from a different title because we're moving them toward being in 2025.
Mhm.
So that would actually probably comprise of actually new ordinance being made, because you know, you have your rental houses, not rental
Okay.
houses, you know what I mean? You have
So,
your
but then would that fall
Airbnbs, et
under,
cetera.
here's a question, I don't know the answer. Lodging houses, does that fall under the proposed ordinance for rentals because they are in fact rentals?
I put something in there for that. I did put something in specifically for lodging houses. It's the first definition, bed and breakfast. And one of the requirements is that they would have to register as a business because they're operating as a
Okay.
business. And that's for the whole house or just a unit in the house. It's addressed.
So our current, just real quick, our current lodging house includes hotels. Because prior to now, we used to have the Holiday Inn, et cetera. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about.
Right, and in the definition, I specifically cut that out. I define it separately from a hotel or a motel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what it appears is that Ms. Manica jumped out front. She put together a nice list for us. This is what I would like to see us do with this list, obviously add to it, but if we could flesh out the actual ordinances with the numbers, we can get them, the ones that we have, get that in our hands so that we can start to eyeball it. Because I will tell you that I'm not, other than the dog ordinance, which I probably still have laying around in my list of stuff that we worked on, I'm not familiar with the specifics of any of these until we actually refresh our memory. So knowing that we would have to create a special events, create a food handler certificate, create or either amend or make some modifications to street vendors, fireworks and so forth. If we could commit among ourselves, I see your hand, Madam President. We could commit among ourselves to continue to work on this list. I'm going to schedule another workshop for this month in front of the next city council meeting. And maybe this can be our focus. We could spend a whole hour deciding how we're going to proceed next, because again, the nuts and bolts of deciding to make modifications in ordinances is heavy lifting. So we got to do all the heavy lifting part now.
Rental on it?
Well, that we already have the
doing
rental
rental.
ordinance that we're working on right now. We already have this document. That can be a subject in and of itself. And since we are on a short timeline, we got 90 days. I would say that this is a high priority, but having this list gives us our marching orders. Once we know what we have to work on at least for the summer, I'd like to I won't make any promises because of my schedule, but to try to get 2 workshops a month in, that would take us a lot further. Because as we get into, as you know, once your kid's back in school, life changes. And so let's really take the initiative and flesh this list out, get with Ms. Manica, Ms. Manica, I'm about to delegate.
I see.
I'm about to put you on charge of the list. So
Okay.
get with Ms. Manica and help her flesh this list out, and let's start to cherry pick after we get the people's rental stuff together. Let's get folks' rental ordinance together first. Let's make sure that we get that moratorium done. And then we can move on aggressively to these other ones, because it's going to take some time. If we're creating them out of nothing, it's going to take some time. Would you agree?
Right.
Yes.
The-
So just
any-
one statement to that. I would like to.
Yes, ma'am, please.
I would like to, and we could do that next workshop, whatever. I would like to have McKenna to actually write and take the time out specifically in their schedule to write the ordinance, which would be the special event, food handler, street vendor, all of that will come together. So I have been actually researching that already, working on that, but they would have to do it. And if I'm correct, I wanted to ask this question. When you get done with creating ordinance, and even the lawyers see it, don't they have to go to Muni Code anyway?
So it's supposed to.
Okay. Okay. And then
Okay.
it finishes with Muni Code, am I right?
If I can give a little insight.
Sure.
There are some changes with Municode, so they want the city to hold onto all ratified ordinances until you have them all together to be uploaded.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
and then getting off, you said the word ratified. Okay, so language is so important here. So you said ratified. Keeper of the records, who would be able to gather all those ratified documents? Do we have them? Okay, I just wanted to know. Just wanted to be sure, because that's key. Yes, Madam Pro Tem, I'll let you close this out. We're at 7 o'clock.
In the rental appliance ordinance, is there anything in there about people living owner occupied renters without utilities and running water.
Could you expand on what you mean? I think I understand what you mean, but if you could explain a little bit more, I want to be sure I'm understanding what you're asking me.
I said, is there anything in the ordinance
Mhm.
that addresses owner occupied renters living in a dwelling that doesn't have utilities and running water? Because that was the main thing that they used
Mhm.
against me for my recall.
Well, I believe that's something that is addressed in the International Property Maintenance Code, that you have to have
So
utilities.
can you send a copy of that? Because it need to be in that,
Well, the rental ordinance draft references the IPMC as what it's based upon.
so but can you email that?
We can definitely get you a copy.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. And one more thing to close this out, because I did send out July the 5th, a copy of a nuisance and abatement ordinance
You did.
that me and some of the citizens, concerned citizens, have put together. I wanted you guys to look it over, add to it, and I still got some things that I want to add to it.
Okay, and I'm gonna let that be the last word. We're over time. Let me pull this up for a point of reference. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Mhm.
Madam Pro Tem sent this document to us on
July
July 5th at 11 o'clock. It is a nuisance and abatement ordinance. This came from where?
Just pulling from different ordinances.
Okay, this is this is a reference from another city or ordinance reference that can also be added to the list. We would have to cross-reference and see what nuisance abatement ordinance that we actually have
Right.
in place. Again, with the muni code, it's gonna be heavy lifting and the responsibility falls on us. If this is your pet project, the heavy lifting falls upon you to bring it back to the body and then to make sure that
I
it
love
goes
the
in
word.
the hands of the legal department.
I thought we were giving it to McKenna.
Bring your recommendations back to the body. She asked that they write an ordinance for us on something specific for those two. But for the other ordinance, I'm talking about in general, for the other ordinances that we referenced, like she brought a nuisance and abatement, she provided a document for us. She gave us something to start with. So that's my only ask. As we work on these ordinances, pull something to give us to start with. It makes it a lot easier and it lets us also know where you're coming from when we, you know what I'm saying? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I will call the workshop meeting adjourned at 7:03 and we'll take a 5-minute break before the next meeting. Thank you so much.